Replacing a broken derailleur can be an intimidating project, but it's really not that difficult. Here's a basic overview for first-timers. First, assess the damage. It's possible that your derailleur's fine and you only need to replace the hanger. This part is designed to fail in order to protect your frame. As often as these break, they're pretty hard to find since every frame uses a different one. A shop that specializes in mountain bikes will usually carry the largest variety, but you can always shop online if you strike out. With basic tools, you can replace your hanger just by looking at how the old one was attached. A little tinkering, and you'll be back up and running. If you see more damage than just the hanger, you'll need to buy a new derailleur, which is the position we're in right now with this bike. Check your chain too, because there's a chance it got tangled up in whatever wreck you were in. Another part you may need to replace is the shifter cable, unless you had plenty of extra length in the old one. If you haven't bought replacement parts yet, take note of how many gears you have on your cassette. The chain and derailleur you buy will be specific to this number. Unless you have exotic or expensive parts in your bike, you can mix Shimano, SRAM, or off-brands with each other and everything will work fine. In all cases, the first step is to take your chain off. Just isolate the master link and give it a squeeze with some narrow pliers. Pull the chain out and you're ready to remove the old derailleur. Most derailleurs are fastened on with a hex bolt, so you'll need your Allen keys for this. Most of the time you can reuse your shift cable, but if it's damaged you'll need to run a new one. We'll save that for a different video. Next, fasten the new derailleur to the bike, making sure the screw is behind the notch on your derailleur hanger. This screw is designed to keep the upper cog from crashing into your cassette, but tightening it too much will give you problems shifting. Once you put the chain back on, you can adjust it as necessary. All derailleurs have two limiting screws to keep the chain from shifting off of the cassette. These are labeled H for high gear and L for low gear. If you look at your drivetrain from the back side, you can manually push the derailleur to its higher and lower limits. Look at the upper cog's position in relation to the gears on the cassette. Here, we can see that the derailleur can move way too far past the lowest gear, so we'll tighten the L screw to limit it. Do this for the other end of the cassette as well. Next, we'll attach the gear cable. First, make sure you're shifted into the highest gear, or to put it another way, the smallest gear. This is usually the smaller lever on the right side of your handlebars. Next, attach the gear cable to the derailleur. Make sure there's no slack in the cable whatsoever. If it's a new cable, you're likely going to need to tighten it again while adjusting, since it's going to stretch and settle into place. We'll go over that in a minute too. Now we're ready to put the chain back on. Pull the derailleur cage downwards and drop the chain behind the cassette and in front of the upper cog. The chain then goes around the back side of the lower cog and back up to the front of the bike. If you have a front derailleur, make sure you run the chain through it as well. Your master link can be reattached simply by snapping it together and pulling on the chain. Now you can turn the cranks and try shifting. Chances are it's going to shift terribly, unless you're some kind of a derailleur Jedi. First, shift up and down like crazy to get the cable settled into place, and then start at the bottom and work your way up. If the first click on your shifter doesn't get the chain onto the second cog, it means you need to tighten your cable more. If all you need are small adjustments, you can just loosen the adjustment barrel on the back of the derailleur, which tightens the cable. Once you get the tension right, try shifting up and down one by one. By now, you know how the stop screws and tension adjustments work, so play around with it until you're shifting correctly. This whole process is way easier if you have a bike stand, but you could also just turn the bike upside down and work on it that way. So that's it. You just changed your first derailleur. Time to celebrate by breaking it again. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I need a new derailleur. That was terrible. This is fucked.